In the first 18 months since its launch, Apple has sold 700,000 iPods, making it the #1 digital music player in the world. But up to this point, the iPod is still just a niche product that only works well on a Mac. That was about to change. On April 28, 2003, the same day Steve launches the iTunes Music Store, he also announces the release of his third-generation iPod.
Thank you. It's our third generation. No one's even caught up with our first generation yet, and we're introducing our third.
It's the first iPod to offer full PC compatibility. Now, for the first time, anyone with a computer could use an iPod.
The iPod was just for Mac fans, and it was a big success with Mac people. Steve Jobs let it percolate for a while, let the demand build, let the interest build, let the media build. But when Apple made it Windows compatible, hundreds of millions of people could try this thing out, and that's when the iPod just went nuts.
When Apple allowed the iPod to be PC compatible, the rush to use it was phenomenal. It was almost as if the PC users wanted a piece of Apple, wanted a bite of the apple. They wanted the coolness and the creativity that Apple had always stood for.
There's a big change in Apple's mindset. I mean, they were always hoping that the iPod would be a way to sell more Macs. But when they made it a Windows device, they threw that strategy out the window. They just decided, okay, we'll focus on the iPod. Let's make that the big seller.
The iPod's $1 billion business in 2 years. That's got to get our attention.
In the summer of 2004, we realized at Newsweek that the iPod was much more than a product. It was really becoming a cultural phenomenon. So we set out to do a cover story on it. And as it turned out, Steve Jobs, he had that same realization too. And he told me that a few months before, he had been in New York City and was walking down Madison Avenue. And he saw people walking down the street, and one by one, they had the earbuds. You go down the block, and there'd be another, then there'd be another. And he said to himself, oh my God, it's starting to happen.
iPod sales start to skyrocket. By the end of 2004, Apple has sold 200 million songs from the iPod. The strategy works. In 2005, Apple sells 32 million iPods. That's an iPod sold every second. Apple quadruples its total sales over the previous 3 years and solidifies its 75% ownership of the U.S. MP3 player market. But even more impressive than the sheer number of iPods sold is how this little device would shape our culture. Just 5 years since its launch, Apple has sold more than 70 million iPods, making the iPod a $5 billion a year business that accounts for nearly 40% of Apple's total revenues. Its 75% share of the U.S. MP3 player market continues to astound experts.
When you look at Apple's market share, and they've held this 3/4 market share for 5 years now. And in any other business, if you've got 30% of the market share, that's huge. 75% is absolutely unheard of. And the reason is Apple has stayed ahead of their competitors. They've introduced products that were simply unmatched in the market.
In September 2006, the iTunes Music Store sells its 1.5 billionth song and is now selling more than 3 million songs every day, making Apple the 5th largest music retailer in the U.S., even bigger than brick-and-mortar giants like Tower Records and Sam Goody.
The digital downloads are still a fraction of the CD business. Let's be clear, they're not overtaking Walmart anytime in the near future because there's still a lot more CDs sold. But the fact that even they're on the charts, the fact that they're in the rankings is absolutely amazing. If 5 years ago I said, 5 years from now the 5th largest music distributor is going to be Apple, you would probably have suggested I go lie down for a while.
And within a week of announcing that iTunes will offer full-length feature films for purchase, Apple sells more than 125,000 digital flicks, making it clear Apple is ready to dominate the digital movie business as well. But all of the iPod's success is being fueled by one thing: the love people have for the device. Unlike any tech gadget before it, the passion owners exhibit for their iPods is unparalleled.
The fact that 80% of Microsoft employees who have music players are said to have iPods rather than the ones running Microsoft software is a telltale sign.
The iPod has gone to a cult-like status. It's something that people have affection for. Even as products become technically competitive, consumers want the iPod brand. They don't want anything else.
Today, users are showing love for their iPods in all sorts of ways. Some owners are creating their own homemade iPod commercials, like this one from an iPod owner in California. Or paying a business called iPopMyPhoto.com to turn their photos into their very own personalized iPod ads.
His face is great. That kid's face is great.
While some iFanatics are taking pictures of their iPods and uploading them to iLounge.com's iPods from Around the World photo gallery, where over 4,000 iPod owners have proudly posted pics of their beloved white devices for everyone else to admire.